morning. My first experience with the famine was like being sent to some alien world that I knew next to nothing about. The first time you go without food and miss a meal, it's definitely not easy. I grew up pulling food out of the cabinet or the fridge whenever I was hungry, and I guess I really took that for granted. But when I got to the church that evening, I was hungry, and the first thing I wanted to do was snuggle into a warm blanket with a few packages of cookies and Pop-Tarts and read a book that would last me a few hours. The next day, after a midnight mass and a very cranky group of preteens, in the morning, we went to Hartford's Bushnell Park. I know for a fact that every one of us who were new were scared out of our minds. We played it off and tried to keep it off of our heads and our brains by joking around and laughing. But I was so nervous at the same time that I wasn't shaking from the cold. In the park, we attended an outside mass, and a few people besides our very, very large group of people attended. After the service, we handed out tuna sandwiches we had made earlier and a few other items to the other attendees, such as washcloths and soap. This year, I had a very trying time in the very last hour of the famine. We're back from the park and had about an hour to kill before we were allowed to eat. So some of us set up a computer and watched a movie downstairs to pass the time. But my mind and stomach kept going back to the food cooking upstairs and the things I had learned. I cringed when I watched a short film on Soul Hope, an organization who helps children by trying to prevent jiggers. For those of you who don't know what jiggers are, it's when a parasite burrows into your feet to where the point you can't walk, and they lay their eggs there too. But after having time to think, although a little delusionally from the lack of food, I started to wonder about the pain they had to go through. Thankfully, I've never been too seriously injured to the point where I can't walk or I can't move. But these children have to go through that pain, and they also have to deal with removing the jiggers and their eggs. Yet the only way many get rid of them is using a small sharp object, such as a diaper pin, to scrape away the eggs and parasites out of the holes in their feet. And in hope of helping at least some of those children, our group of famine goers made about 20 sets of shoe outlines to donate to Soul Hope, which was a very consuming task, as one pair of shoes took about 20 minutes to trace and cut out. And in addition to the shoes that we made, we raised over $2,000, about $1,000 of which will go to Soul Hope. I would like to leave you with a quote that stuck with me the entire weekend, since the beginning of the famine. "You will always have the poor with you," from Mark 14:7. And when you go home or doing your errands and your mind wanders, I would like you to think about that quote and what it means to you.